This is a Zenith 12 tube 3-band shortwave AM receiver from the late 30s, early 40s. Next to the top of the line, this has push-pull 6V6s. The best one, it's a 12 tube model. The best one had 15 tubes with push-pull parallel 4 6V6s. But this is a real jukebox in its own right, but that other one's a real monster. What we're going to look at here is, can we save this thing from rat damage? This was basically an excellent radio that was in storage for a while. I had a blanket over it to keep the cabinet nice, and rats got in it, made a big nest. They did a lot of piss and poop in it, and it's done a lot of corrosion, and the corrosion shows through on the other side and got into the band switch. So we're going to see if we can save this thing. First thing I'm going to do is physically clean the last of the poop and the nest out of it. I'm going to shoot it with simple green, take a toothbrush to it, rinse it, try to get the corrosive poop and the stink off of it, and do the same on the underside and dry it. And then it'll have to wait for later for the resurrection if it's possible. It's a real shame, because I've been saving this for a long time. It was going to be the last one I ever overhauled. I used to overhaul a lot of these. These has 3 clamshell dials, gold, black, and blue. Really a nice radio. Okay, number 2, we've taken a screwdriver, and what's been here is rat shit that's been dissolved by rat urine and just caked on here, and stuff's very corrosive, very stinky, very dirty. So we physically scraped it off as much as we can with a screwdriver, and taken a old toothbrush and gotten the loose stuff out, because I don't want to dissolve any more of this crap into the tube sockets and into the rest of the radio than I have to. But most of that's happened anyway, so we're really trying to save what's become what was once a very wonderful serviceable radio, and now it's a dubious candidate. So we'll see if we can save it. Okay, I'm doing what I would never do to a good radio, and that's squirting this thing with concentrated simple green. This stuff is probably a little corrosive on its own, but it's very good stuff for removing rat piss and rat poop. It really seems to go after it. So I'm going to douche this thing and scrub it with a toothbrush with the full strength simple green, and then rinse it. And we'll talk about the other consequences of doing that later. But I mean, this thing has got rat piss and poop in the tube sockets and in the IF cans and everywhere, so we got to do something pretty radical to save it. Okay, about an hour later, I took this old kitchen scrubber, nylon kitchen scrubber, and went after this much as I could. And I'm going to spray the underside and clean it with a toothbrush and get the corrosive rat piss out of there. And then I'm going to rinse it all with water, because the simple green is probably corrosive if you left it on there full strength forever. But you know, there was rat piss down in all these tube shields and stuff, so, or rat poop, so you know there's probably rat poop inside the IF cans, rat poop in all the little band trimmers and stuff for all 3 bands. So this thing's really going to come apart before it ever works again. Well, I've never made a video about overhauling these Zeniths, because there's quite a lot to it. But one of the Achilles heels of these radios, made in the 30s and early 40s by Zenith, is that a good bit of the wiring has kind of a rubber insulation on it, which over the years becomes very brittle and fragile. And usually when you overhaul these, you replace all these paper caps, and so I'm not worried about those, because the be standard procedure to replace all the paper and electrolytic caps in here anyway. But you never really want to get these mica caps wet. You don't want to screw with those. But when they're covered with rat poop and rat piss, you don't have any choice in that. At the end of the overhaul, if it has problems, it'll almost certainly be due to mica caps that have been destroyed by what we're doing here. But you can see here, what you do when you work with these is you make sure to disturb as few wires as you can, otherwise you end up rewiring the whole thing. But I've had to get in here and brutalize this with a toothbrush, which I would ordinarily never do with one of these old Zeniths. And so this thing is going to require extensive or perhaps almost complete rewiring with modern wire, because so much of this has been disturbed mechanically and now chemically as well. And of course there's also fabric covered wire in here too, and we'll have probably, usually the color coding on that gets to be a little ambiguous when they're old anyway, but now that we've douched it with simple green, and we're going to douche it again with water, it's going to be even more so. But this radio otherwise would have been absolutely ruined, and it probably is anyway, but we'll see. Well, I've just done something that I would never do to a good antique radio. You might get away with it with solid state radios that have molded sealed capacitors and stuff, but a radio like this you don't. But this one I just took a hose to, and it took almost 5 minutes to run water through the underside of it until there was no suds coming out, and the top part was a little faster for some reason. But anyway, that actually got out a bunch of trapped turds that I hadn't gotten out otherwise. And I'm going to dry it now, and I'm going to take some tri-flow and shoot it on the mechanical parts. And I'm just going to put it away for a while. The thing was so stinky I couldn't have it in my shop anymore. So I think we've probably arrested the corrosion as well as we can for the moment. And we've tried to protect the dial, and the dial, of course, is the one thing you can never replace on these things, and I don't ever get anything wet on it, but we'll see. I hope I haven't ruined it. But anyway, there's still a lot more to do. All the tubes should come out, and the pins should be cleaned out and douched up with deoxit and all that. But anyway, this is just to try to save it, and means I can put it back in my shop without it stinking. Now I got to go after the cabinet. But anyway, that's where we got with a couple of hours of work, and God knows whether it's actually ever going to be able to overhaul it and restore it or not. But it's going to be a lot more than the usual cleaning deoxit to replace the caps, replace the wandering resistors, and tune and align it. It's going to a lot of dissection. IF cans will have to come apart, and the switches, and who knows if the trimmers are going to work anymore, and all the micas are probably going to be shot now. Between the rat piss, the shit, and the simple green, and taking a hose to it, there's not much chance those micas are going to be good anymore, but we'll see.